Hello, my name is Hellfire695, and I'm doing a video today to talk about something that I haven't seen a whole lot of videos talking about, and that is just how the Illuminati have completely destroyed our culture and put this pseudo-culture in the place of where our actual culture used to be. And I want to take a moment and I want to talk about a few of the ways that's happened and a few of the indicators that actually show this is happening. Like, one of the best indicators, and this is proven by history, of how a society is doing at any given time is through divorce rates. And if you look at modern divorce rates compared to divorce rates in the 1950s, divorce rates nowadays are usually about 6 out of 10. That's a 60% divorce rate. Okay? Now, what causes that divorce rate? Well, there's a number of ways that they've manipulated it, our culture, that's causing that kind of divorce rate. And I think the primary one is probably the lack of communication that people have nowadays. And that's come from a dependence on technology to communicate, you see. Like, for example, it's kind of ridiculous when you see two 15-year-old girls standing right next to each other, texting one another. That's an example of this. And, of course, there's the same old television putting these ideas into our heads of how they think relationships should be, as opposed to how a relationship should actually be. Okay? And what this has caused, in a sense, is that relationships have just become very woman-oriented, I find, in a lot of cases. You get the man, and he's trying to do everything to please the woman. Now, where I come from, we have a term for that, and we call it whipped. Okay, you've probably heard that before, about any given person being whipped. But the problem is that when what relationships are meant to be are relationships between equals, not this whipped version that the elites have put upon us to try and break up our relationships. Now, when our relationships break up, in the case of marriage, that causes even more problems with the kids, because usually the father leaves and usually the kids go with the mother, and if there's a son involved, that leaves the son without a proper father figure in his life. And this doesn't turn out bad for everyone, and I'm not trying to, rag on single moms here either, but that leaves, not only does it leave the mom working all the time to try and support the family, it also leaves the poor son without a proper father figure, and without seeing how a guy is supposed to be. All he has is the societal image of being all big and macho and masculine, and that's not necessarily what a man is. That's not being a man at all. That's being a muscle-bound little boy, if you ask me. So he grows up thinking that he's supposed to be some big macho, muscle-bound little boy, and usually that doesn't always lead to good places. Plus, the other problem is that the mother's always working, so she can't always be there for the kids. And if she's on welfare, well, then there's obvious financial issues. And that's just one aspect of the problem as well. There's so many others. Like, I'll use another one. Drugs. Rate of drug use is usually a good indicator of how well a society is doing, and well, the rates of drug and alcohol abuse are much, much higher than there used to be. And there's a reason they push drugs and alcohol on us. The reason they push drugs and alcohol on us is to stupefy us. And I think their drug of choice is probably marijuana. You know why? Because it's easy to convince people to do marijuana on a regular basis. You do it once, they think, oh, this isn't so bad. They end up doing it again every once in a while. And since it's It can be addictive, but it isn't super addictive. But marijuana is also the #1 drug for stupefying people. Okay? And the way they promote this is very interesting. It's kind of like a reverse psychology approach. Okay? They always show actors doing it in movies and stuff, and that sometimes makes people think it's okay. But at the same time, they make it illegal. And when you make it illegal like that, well, the way they're using reverse psychology, it's kind of like telling a 2-year-old, don't eat the cookies out of that jar. What's the kid go and do? He eats the cookies out of the jar. Almost specifically because you told him not to. Because 9 times out of 10, if you hadn't told him not to take the cookies out of the jar, hadn't said a word about it, he would have taken the cookies out of the jar, if you know what I'm talking about here. I mean, that might have been not the best way to phrase it, but unfortunately I only have 10 minutes of video here, so I have to get on with the subject here. And another part of the subject that they've attacked that I want to talk about is models, okay? And eating disorders and stuff like that. Now, here's where that comes in. Is that they make these models that they praise as great looking and beautiful, and they make them impossibly skinny. So that way, when you get women that aren't so skinny, and they see these models, they'll look at themselves in the mirror and they'll think, oh, I'm fat, I gotta lose weight. When in reality, they don't, and they're beautiful just as they are. Because I think beautiful women come in a variety of shapes and sizes. You don't have to be super skinny to be beautiful. Okay? You don't. But the way these models make it is so that it looks like you have to be impossibly thin to be beautiful. And what that does is that attacks a woman's self-esteem. And that drives it down. See, these are all ways that they use to manipulate our culture. And those are just a couple. I mean, this is their control of the masses that we're talking about here. And another obvious one is fear. They use fear all the time. Be scared of swine flu. Be scared of terrorists. Oh, come on. The swine flu's no worse than a regular cold. And the terrorists were put there by the government. So give me a break. I mean, there's so many more paradigms to this. There's so much more to this. I could go on and on for hours, but the fact is that I only have so much time. And I think my time is just about up. And there's just one last thing I'd like to mention, is that is just how a lot of these things they push is all done through television. Television and movies. Okay? They get these famous celebrities to do it, and it's kind of like monkey see, monkey do. Okay? You see this big celebrity getting drunk on screen or getting high on screen, you know, you think, oh, they're doing it, it can't be so bad. Think again. Weed is not all they've cracked it up to be. It's not so bad in itself, but the reason they push it is not good for you. Not good for you at all. They push weed on you to make you stupid. Literally. Pot has been shown in numerous studies to make people far dumber when they're high. Not only that, but the stupefying effects of weed can last up for up to several days after the effects of the high go away. Anyway, my time's up, so peace out, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a nice night.